All right, so you could put your name at the top if you want of the notes you're attending. We like to start out if anyone is new, got a couple of new faces, want to introduce yourself and kind of what your interests are, just so we can kind of know what to look for you for. So if anyone wants to introduce themselves. Hey, Abby.
I can start, but I think Frederick was talking.
Yeah, I was on mute because after being remote for 10 years, I still don't know when to unmute myself. So hello, everybody. My name is Frederick Harper. I'm from Montreal, Canada. I work with John and Jared that you may know at CubeFirst. I'm a developer advocate, been doing that for a long time. And, looking to be involved in the way or another. So probably something around developer relation skills. It's places that I can help. So anything people related, content, organizing stuff, connecting with people. This is where I think I can give a hand. So just happy to be here. Kind of like here to look and see how it goes and see where I could help in any possible way. So if you have any idea, anything specific, please let me know. I'm in the CNCF and Kubernetes Slack and spend too much time on Twitter. So anyway, happy to be here.
Thank you.
And real quickly, I'll round out the CubeFirst corner of the room. I'm John Dietz. I'm one of the co-founders of the CubeFirst project. We're an open source IDP that you can create from a single command. And we've been sort of engaging with the platform working group. We met Abby a couple KubeCons ago, and we've kind of just stayed in touch with initiatives. She's got a maturity model that she's been working through. And so we're just kind of trying to see where we might be able to help and contribute in any way. And I also, just keep tabs on what's going on in the platform engineering ecosystem. So we'll probably be regular attendees. Not sure how much value we add, but we're happy to chime in whenever it seems like we have something valuable to say. So I'm glad to be here. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. I mean, everyone's voice is valuable. So yeah, thank you for participating.
Just to quickly introduce myself as well. I'm Simon Forster, based in London, and probably a solutions architect, I guess, by day. I'm a co-chair of the cartographers working group that developed the CNCF maturity model. So I've come along, I guess. That was my main introduction, but likewise, a lot of my work is involved around app delivery. So I thought I'd come along as well and check out. Thank you. That's all.
Thanks for joining, Simon.
Okay, I can go next. Hello, everyone. Thank you, Abby, for inviting me. So I work at Red Hat. I am a principal architect focused on applications developer. My previous role, I was helping customers, high-profile customers, adopting containers and OpenShift. I learned a lot from there, and I am right now in my new role helping products marketing teams to understand how developers see the platform, and also I'm all about adoption. So that's, I think, I would like to contribute, and hopefully I will have the chance to contribute and bring the developer perspective into the table. So yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Valentina. Good to see you. Glad you're able to join.
Yeah, good to see you too.
Yeah, I think that's, anyone else want to go? Sorry, I think you want to say hello? I think you were in the call last time, so I didn't.
I was, yeah. I'll just say a brief hi. I'm a senior DevOps engineer for a company called PlanView. But so more of my role is turned into platform engineering. So yeah, I'm just kind of get my feet wet. I work with Mauricio Salentino to do a bit of work. So he recommended I start to come into these.
Sweet. I saw he chimed in on the thread that he's got something going. So maybe you have some insight in that. All right. So I'm thinking today, kind of, Stefan, I don't know if you've joined our calls before, but folks may know you. Should I ask you to introduce yourself?
Very quickly. So I worked with you in Red Hat on KCP for quite a while, and I'm in Cube ecosystem for 8 years or so. I joined Upbound recently, so Upbound is also, of course, in this
Crossplane.
area, so crossplane. So yeah, natural choice to be here.
Good to have you here. Yeah, we appreciate it. Okay, so I was thinking today, kind of to start talk about some of the stuff related to the platform's work itself. Spend about half the time probably on that, maybe more. And then I wanted to bring up the conversation about, which came up, a lot of times as we were working on the paper, which is going into the capability domains a little bit more. So maybe we can tackle that next. Yeah, if that's all right with folks. So going down the list on the platform's paper, I guess the first thing here is the maturity model. Abby, do you want to give us an update on where things are, what you might need from us, or?
Yeah, that'd be cool. Yeah, so a lot of faces from the kickoff call last week. Weeks are really long right now. I don't know where I am. I think it was last week. The kind of takeaway from that call, it is recorded, it's in the same spot as all the other calls, and it's in the channel, is that there's a lot of enthusiasm, but people haven't picked it up just yet, is what I would say is the short. The biggest concern that was raised was around this idea of quote unquote king making, which I had to decipher a bit. So I will define it as, are we going to elevate any given technology or project in a way that we are not intending to or shouldn't be, is sort of is what I'm taking as king making, or as the risk of it. And we basically have taken that off the table as a group and said, this doesn't have anything to do with technologies. It has to do with how you apply ideas. And we see this as a level of detail below the white paper, but above the decision of implementation. So it doesn't mean that someone might not come along with a really good argument as to why to include technologies, but that's going to have to be a separate conversation. As of now, that's sort of the rule of thumb. The other major decision was that while GitHub and the issues format is something that we want to use when we're a more kind of polished version, we thought that the barrier to entry and the access to good conversation was best done in Google Docs. So we are going to maintain that, which is the Google Doc is in the issue that's linked in the paper there. I guess since that call, I have added a lightweight contributor guide based very much off of what Simon did with the cloud native one. So thank you, Simon, for that burst of inspiration. But it is more lightweight, to be fair. But it should hopefully give people some insight into what the document does and how to engage and all those. If it doesn't, please shout. That's my intention, is to make this very welcoming. So if there's anything that still seems confusing when you read it, or if it makes it feel more difficult to contribute, which is the antithesis of what I'm hoping for, so please tell me. And then the last thing I would say is it's been very quiet so far on engagement actually on the paper. So I have done a few things to maybe try and encourage people to jump in. So I've added a few to-do items throughout the document. So first of all, everything's up for grabs, not just the to-dos. Please edit, please comment, please ask questions. Like, sometimes people are not sure where to start. So I did a quick review, or a bit of a review, of the cloud native maturity model. And so we have sort of a trifecta of things we want to speak to each other, is I guess the summary. We would like to make it so that people who look at the cloud native maturity model do not feel surprised by the platform maturity model, and vice versa. There should be some alignment there in the way that we design things. Doesn't have to be one for one, but there should be something where people feel at home when they look at the two. Similarly, if someone has read the platform white paper, they should feel at home reading the maturity model. There's obviously going to be differences because of the depth of content, but people who find the maturity model first should be able to rise up to the white paper and feel at home, and vice versa. And I think we have some work to do there. And so I've added a few to-do items where I've identified places where we can add content or ask questions. There's many more to be done, and I'll keep adding to-do items, as well as hopefully just engage in chat as people ask questions. So very long-winded way of saying it's open for business. Come on in. Let's mark it up and make it great. So
Thank you, Abby. I know it's hard work bringing people along, getting those contributions. Were there any topics or domains or anything, any discussions that have come up? Nothing yet.
pretty limited, I would say, other than the discussions around making sure that we are in the kind of cloud native ecosystem. So thanks to Simon, I actually had a chat with, I'm gonna blank on name right now. Please don't watch this, Taylor. With Taylor, who's like the ecosystem person.
Oh,
Yes, exactly. And he was super keen. His one big takeaway was, please make sure that this doesn't add more division within the language and the formats and the whatever associated. His other big takeaway for me was he suggested getting it onto the working group or tag website as soon as possible, because it gives an anchor to people of, like, right now it would be like a work in progress, come see our Google Doc kind of pointer, but then we would have that sort of thing. I am optimistic about that, but I'm also conscious that that gives it a lot of weight before we maybe have even decided if this is something we want to publish. So I don't want to strong arm the group into owning a maturity model by putting it on a website. Not that we couldn't take it right back off the website, but I do think that's a conversation of making sure this is a document we want to stand behind as a working group before we put it on the website. But those were the two big takeaways from talking to him, and that's why I'm trying to make sure we align with our two existing documents.
Yeah, maybe we can talk next week, Abby. I know when I looked over it, it's been a couple of weeks for me too, but I wanted to find ways to make sure we're the like categories of things that we define in the paper are reflected there.
Exactly. And I think that still needs work, just to be clear. I have not made any big edits since you made that point, and I think it was a really good point, and that's part of what I think we still have work to be done. This is not targeting like a next month publishing or anything. This is still in the kind of ideation and editing stage, and contributors welcome for sure. So yeah,
I would love for us, just to put a stake down, like maybe like KubeCon Chicago. That's
my optimism. I have in the contributor guide, if we want to release October 30th, which would be a week before KubeCon, which would be similar to KubeCon Amsterdam with the white paper, I worked my way backwards to say that we sort of need to be getting into GitHub, so where we're looking for that final review rather than the really wide open conversations in September, so September 10th. I think that's tons of time. It's almost too much time. I don't want people to think like, oh, just throw it away till September, we'll come back to it. But yeah, I think that leaves plenty of time for us to have really in-depth good conversations. So I want people to feel comfortable throwing out big problems like, is this the right format? Are these the right aspects? Like all those kinds of questions, because we do have the time to chew on that as a group. Yeah, this is the right time to do that. So yeah.
okay. Thank you so much, Abby.
No stress.
Just pause here for a minute in case anyone else wants to chime in. Okay, moving down the list here. So the survey, Michael Luskin has been driving that. We do have some replies, and that's nice. One interesting thing is that all the repliers so far have said they're platform builders, not platform users. I think we want to publish a blog post just about what the purpose is of it. Oh, and that's what I wanted. Have any of you gone through it, and do you have any feedback for us, for Michael, and for all of us? Because that was kind of, we put it out there. We kind of advertised. I know it's been in Jorge. Thank you for putting it in the Rhodian newsletter. I've seen it in a couple other places, so that's great. But mostly, like we kept it not too loud because just give people a chance to review it and give us some feedback. I should put the link if you all don't have it. I'll put it in now so you can just find it. Should have put that in before. Okay, I put it in the notes. And I'll put it in here too, just in case. All right. So moving on to the next one, prototypes and samples. Does anyone have any update on that? I know we're all busy and, you know, we all want to build these, but I don't know. Have we made any progress? Mauricio chimed in on the thread that he might have done some stuff. Sorry, I see you came off mute. You want to?
Yeah,
Sure.
so I'm going to be careful about what I say because I don't know everything he's got going on. But at least the portion we've been working on, and I think we haven't discussed enough about like the overall context of what he's trying to accomplish, but I've been helping him to basically build in backstage to these prototypes that he's been building. So we're at the end stages of that right now, of having kind of backstage all kind of ready to go and packaged up and ready to roll out. So that's the only, I guess, update I can give. I'm not sure if he was planning on saying anything else. It seemed like he was going to give more context about ownership and stuff like that, but that's all I've got.
Which thread is evolving on that? So I'm aware of the GitHub issue, which I don't think has had a lot of updates recently. Is there a thread, a different issue that I'm not following, or where that is, or a different repo or a different thread in Slack? Maybe I've only been watching out of curiosity. I haven't been involved at all, but it is curiosity. So I like to keep
I
aware.
can give a link that may be helpful. It also might not be helpful.
Good test. Fast feedback.
Yes.
And thank you.
Yeah, I know one of the things that we had discussed is that it was kind of broad just to create a platform. We wanted a use case, like, I don't know, web app development or AI ML, or I don't know what. Did you kind of hammer on that a little bit? Like, what's the target user of your platform?
Yeah, so it seems kind of broad, right? So he seems to have started that link I sent.
Oh, nice.
Seems to have started with just kind of pulling a few tools. So he's using Crossplane, vCluster, Knative, and Dapper to create some type of like, it does seem like just kind of like a simple web app that's able to do just basic calls across services. And then, yeah, we're just kind of recording it within the service catalog. So it seems just all very generic. I wasn't really able to tell if it's really able to, we're having like a specific like target people, but yeah.
One of the things I really liked about the Potato, which I realize is narrow in its scope, and Potato being a way to package up apps, which is a small part of a developer platform. It's something that was being sort of is still, I think, being maintained by the working group in ways. But the reason I really like that is because it was a problem statement that could be solved in many different ways from open source software around kind of the community and in piecing together open source software. So there's a few, I think there were a couple of solutions where it's more than one. So like in this case where vCluster plus Crossplane, like that's a really nice way to be able to showcase like two tools working together to solve a problem. I wonder if, to your point, Josh, about trying to make this more specific, and Valentina, your experience with trying to like root out like problems with customers and really being able to understand the use case and stuff. I've been using a framework, the jobs to be done framework, which I can't say I'm an expert in. So people may have a better framework or something else that's easier to grasp or whatever. But something like this, which we could say similar to Potato, the job to be done is to package up your app. Like, what's this platform's job to be done? Is it to release through multiple environments? Is it to combine infrastructure with an application? Is it like, what is the thing that that people are trying to solve so that we give potentially collaborators a hook to say, oh, I can solve that in a different way. Here's an example. Like, and that way we kind of build that community engagement, which might reduce also the cost of maintenance, which I know is a big concern of Mauricio's, which is like, we make this thing and it goes out of date the next day because it's, you know, sandbox level projects that are updating frequently, right? So just a thing to throw out as an idea.
Valentina, I see you had your hand up.
Yeah, no, it was great, Abby, because what you said, I was trying to like understand what is the use case, and it seems it's like we are trying to show the value of the platform through different prototypes. Is that okay? So maybe we can define like, okay, what are the use cases we want to cover depending on the personas? Is it for developers or DevOps, or maybe we look at CI/CD or containers or onboarding, and then to create different like journeys for them. I don't know, but I think it's connected to what you were saying, Abby, like creating those journeys and then those use cases that connects to the journey can help us create like, yeah, good samples of how the how to, yeah, love it. Yes.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think he intentionally made this very vague, because it's a little bit easier to narrow in than it is to sort of like widen out. But yeah, I think that's a great potential, like at least next step of like, okay, we can sort of take this and figure out what are good use cases and kind of fine tune different prototypes depending on the use case.
Yeah, thanks for that insight, Asari. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, we could start with something more generic and go from there. Victor, I see you have your hands up. You wanna?
Yeah, is it possible to have a more just project self-initiated like description of what they have? For example, I was just confused about crossplane and KCP, and then I came to know crossplane is for basically infrastructure provisioning, whereas KCP is for workload provisioning or management. So, and even KCP have additional extensions, because there was a KCP Edge, which now become Kubestella, the new name for that. Do you think it would be good to have a kind of link to that section of the platform choices under each category? Just whoever think they belong that, they can add them to their, maybe not add them, at least they have a link to their project and give their description of their technical capabilities. So one thing I find, because I'm a database guy, so one person, CMU, Andy Pavlo in CMU University, he's have a lot of talks from different database providers in his seminars. What I find is, in order to not have a kingmaker, it's good to actually have understanding what's unique of the architecture and design, and of course the implementation. This way, users can make their own choice based on the actual technical details on whether that's what they need, instead of marketing. Because most of the time, the documentation is either too marketing-ish, just too high level, or too detailed for the actual developers. There's nothing in between that can help the users, the developers, to make a choice of what's needed for that particular project.
I think that was a much better way of saying what I said, which was basically, if we start with what is the problem that we're trying to solve on the platform with a platform, it all of a sudden becomes, we can have example things that solve that problem across different technologies, which therefore allows users to evolve and check their understanding of the different technologies and why this one technology can be replaced by these two working well together. So, and whatever, things along those lines. Yes, that was very much. But I agree with you, Josh, that it's a good start on the platform prototype. Like, we need what Mauricio has. It's now abstracting out what is he solving. This is one example, but giving them an opportunity to talk through other examples, right? If people want to own them. So.
Yeah. So for example, you can have a multiple project doing the same thing, application workload management, but they can give their 3 minutes marketing talk about why our project is the best, right? And then they have to go into using computer science terms on what technology they have used to make it unique, so that and also implementation wise, even like project members, why they're doing it better, right? And this way they can have a 15 minutes video that can go in a lot deeper for people to understand why they should choose this one for their project to build a platform.
Yeah, I'm getting it better too. Now I pasted in the Potato Head delivery repo, which I think is kind of what you're saying, Abby. Like there if Potato Head, the actual containers are built somewhere else, but this just demonstrates 5 different ways or something to deploy it. So we could take off, if we have a prototype platform for building a simple web app, and someone does it here in crossplay, but we could have a repo that shows here's 4 other ways you could have accomplished the same thing.
Yeah, I think there are 2 layers to this. Like, I don't want to lose the ask that I'm hearing from Victor around like hosting potentially deeper marketing and or more from the projects that we think are well within the tag app delivery and working group platform domain space, right? So like there's an ask here that's like, I want to understand more about these specific projects I hear coming up in those spaces, which I think is one thing that we can deliver as a group, you know, if we see wide value there. I think there's a separate thing that we're talking about as well, which is like this prototyping, or I think reference architectures is what we talk about, of like that's solving problems. And I think in that case, I guess the ask right now is whether or not we can move up a level from the tech. Should we be talking about you solve your platform by using vCluster, or should we be saying you solve your like you have a problem where you want to have a cost-effective way to have isolation. You can do that with vCluster, you can do that with this, you can do that, whatever, right? Like, but this is the problem, like the FAQs essentially, like we get asked a lot about how secrets management in GitOps, just like we're tackling that in the GitOps working group. What do we get asked a lot about as platform working group that we could then talk to our partner projects to say, how do you solve this? Let's make sure this is really, that you've answered this question really clearly for the users, because we're getting this question, or we're seeing this as a problem statement in the industry. So, but yeah, so I don't want to lose that other side of what Victor said, because I think that was also a very good ask or option for us to work on.
Sorry to roll us back a little bit, but I think it helps to know like what, and I've said this, I think the last one, it helps kind of know what the end's going to look like as we're sort of like trying to head there. So it seems like there's a few different uses for this prototype. I just haven't heard, like, I guess the overview. It seems like it's going to be used to like kind of showcase different like capabilities, like what like a platform should look like or could look like, depending on different use cases. And to also like help engage with some of these projects and sort of like help people to kind of fill in holes where there might be. Like, this is just me guessing based off of what's being said, but is there anybody that can give like a succinct, this is what we want to do with this prototype?
I think that's what we want to define at the same time.
Okay. That's good enough.
I think we're backporting a little bit of hard work done by Mauricio.
Gotcha.
And if I don't want to speak for him, he'll probably watch this back and be like, Abby, you got this all wrong. But I think the thing he articulated most clearly at the tag event in Amsterdam was that he wants tangible things. He wants working code, tangible things that people can play with. And so I think from his perspective, that's what he's making headway on. And I think he's doing a great job of it. Now the question is how do we make that approachable for people? And how do we reduce the king making? And how do we increase the like accessibility or discoverability of it? Like now these are the questions we're asking on top of that goal of tangibility.
Understood.
Yeah, one of the things that went through my head as we were talking about docs is ADRs. Like, I'm not saying it's ADRs, but we basically need to document, like Mauricio, I also am kind of like, he creates cool things, but we can go in and explain, like, we chose to use Crossplane because of X, we chose to use Vault because of Y, we chose this, and you know, then just have docs maybe in that repo or something. Makes sense. Okay, that's good. I think we.
Josh, we lost your mic, and I had just one quick additional point to drop on before we change topics. And the I really don't want to be a product pitcher in this work group, but we happen to have an open source utility that can create consistent Kubernetes GitOps infrastructure environments to serve as like a foundational basis for you to be able to add any applications on top of, as long as they're cloud native. It works on K3D locally, it works in AWS, and it works in Civo And then in beta, it also works in DigitalOcean and Vultr clouds. And like, if that's ever a need of this working group to like have consistently creatable, ephemeral, local or cloud Kubernetes environment that has Terraform infrastructure as code that's managed by Atlantis. It has HashiCorp Vault that serves as both a secrets manager and an IDP and an OIDC provider that extends throughout the platform tools. Argo CD GitOps is our opinion. We don't have Flux CD, but we try to be like super vendor agnostic with our platform. So like, really, we're just trying to establish that foundation of like something that's more usable than an empty Kubernetes cluster that can be the new starting point for Kubernetes. So if that's ever valuable to you guys in your prototyping, or if like you ever wished that like, man, you know, I've got this platform example and there's 33 apps on it and they all need to know about each other, and the install process is just going to be a nightmare. Like that is the nightmare that we built our product to solve. So if we can help you guys, we would love to engage with you and work with you on building that type of a platform sample environment with real tangible stuff. And I promise, Josh, I'm going to try to be not pitchy forevermore. I just wanted to offer that to the working group.
Cool. Yeah, I suspect many of us work for, are pursuing similar things for our customers. Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, let me go ahead and move to the next one. The next two things are simple, so we'll just, unless there's something about them, the translations, we're making progress. We just have to figure out what Hugo expects. Nothing really to update there. On managing the graphic, that's, yeah, I need to figure out, I need to reply, that's on me. So the last thing on the platform's paper stuff is platform stuff is outreach. Jorge, do you want to give us an update there and tell us what's up? You're on mute, Jorge.
Yeah, it's very simple, basically, because I didn't have that much time, but I did reach out to the marketing committee from the CNCF, and then Christy, who is, I think, the lead of some department for marketing at the CNCF, said that she would set up some time with me to explain how things work. But we haven't booked anything yet, but I think she will be able to tell us how to make this work for the newsletter, or maybe she has more ideas on how other working groups are communicating with people, or what can the CNCF do for us, or in that kind of regard. That's pretty much it.
Okay, that's fair. Do you need any, like in terms of gathering content or stuff, do you want any input from folks here?
I think it will depend on what she has to tell me, because it seems like a very, I don't know, I've only seen some newsletters from the CNCF and it seems like they use some kind of special system, or maybe they have a special methodology, but I think the way of gathering content is not going to be a problem. So I want to figure out what is it that we need, what kind of cadence we need to prepare it in advance. Do they do it? Do we do it? And from that point, it'll be relatively easy to set up a proposal on how we can create this kind of content pipeline for the newsletter every month.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we might want to think about like how we can keep it as open as like, could it be like a GitHub thing where I can submit, an article or something?
Exactly. That's why I don't know how they work, because if they use like a little tool that is proprietary, then we have to, it depends on what input they expect. Then we can set up an open way of collaboration around it.
Okay, I guess I'll tell you, let's be open, like to some degree, if their thing is not any good, or we can work within or around it, it's a very bottoms up work here in CNCF.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. I was just curious because I've seen that they do have some way of letting people subscribe to specific channels. So it might be useful for gathering people to sign up into our newsletter if you can use their channels, because they have this kind of big, massive page with hundreds of newsletters that you can sign up from the CNCF. I don't know.
Yeah, I wonder if it would it help you, Jorge? I wonder if we can use the community site because there is a way to join that.
Yep.
And there is actually a way to send emails, I think, to members.
Could be an option.
Okay, I'm
There's
gonna write that in the
things-
notes. And
Just like there's so many options. That's why I want to know, what do they recommend? Do we like what they say? If not, we can just go our own way. As the survey, it didn't work, but they had official, so we just did our own thing. Could be
Okay.
the same for this case. So I like to play by the rules first.
Yeah,
And then
oh,
if
yeah.
it doesn't work, we just whatever, something else.
Okay, so I wanted to shift us a little, if it's okay with folks. Let's give us, I'm gonna give a couple seconds in case anyone else wants to chime in on Jorge's work. Okay, it's always hard to.
I was just gonna say that Valentina, I think I pinged you in a thread with Jorge. I think you two are aligned with what you do a little bit and your goals and stuff. So definitely, yeah, keep an eye. And if you haven't made that connection yet, you two should probably chat at some point.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks. Yes.
No stress.
That'd be fantastic. And I think Frederick as well. There might be some alignment in the thing that we can do.
Cool. All right, I brought up my page here because I think it'll be easier to walk through with at least something to read. So looking over, you know, when we're working on this, and to be honest, one of my motivations for working on the platform stuff is to start rationalizing some of the capability domains that we have. Let's say there's about 160 projects in CNCF these days. Starting to bring together similar projects and identifying ways that we can find synergies, establish conventions, ultimately to reduce cognitive load and make this stuff easier for end users. I wanted to go ahead and just, I guess I'll just kind of present for the next few minutes where we are kind of in those efforts. I want to share a couple ones that would be, I think, particularly appropriate for us in this group or in tag app delivery in general. Yeah, and I want to hear, your feedback if there's others. So, okay, I'll just get started. So I put in the link here. There's a couple issues that have come up recently around this. Just first of all, at the end of the paper, I mean, if everyone's read the paper, I guess at the very end, there's a section on the capability domains where we hypothesize, I guess, 12 or 13 things. And basically, we're trying to help platform engineers, you know, they just think about the space and what they might need to consider. One of the things we're asking in the survey, you might have noticed if you went through, is like, which ones of these are important? Are you using these? Most of them have, out of the survey respondents, half of them have chosen, I think almost all of them. Some of them have gotten more than that, closer to 70 or 80% of the respondents. Yeah, so within those, some of them are tags already within CNCF or other groups. So obviously observability, you know, we don't need to tackle. Security, probably not much either, networking. But these seem appropriate for us. The first, I'm almost thinking about where to start, but yeah, the first two are kind of about our interfaces. And I didn't put Portal first because I hear about Backstage so much, literally heard it in big announcements about it this morning. But I put APIs, that's actually probably my passion. So that's why I put that first. And what I mean by that is, you know, we have the Kubernetes resource model, which a lot of us, you know, kind of compiled down to. Maybe it's the point of interoperability. And we also have these, I guess you could call them compositions. You know, you could call them, I put rendering because I sometimes think of Helm charts as kind of this way. Things that bring together lots of underlying Kubernetes resources and then create another API on top. So I guess a couple in this area, and it's TBD, there's not even an issue open on this. So this is just like kind of exploring this with you all. Are there ways either at the Kubernetes API level, the actual, KRM, individual kinds and CRDs and stuff like that, or at the composition level, are there some synergies, some conventions, some things that seem to come up in every implementation? Are there things that we might tackle together, kind of build up a group maybe of folks that are building these second level APIs to learn from each other and to cross-pollinate? Yeah, I guess I'm not clear if I'm asking for feedback at this point, but yeah, if people want to chime in, I mean, if we do want to pursue these, I guess what we would do is kind of what we're doing in these latter two, which is why I was like hesitating. Maybe I should describe these first because these have momentum already. But the way they've started is a document that kind of describes existing projects, existing work, ideas that we might tackle, that we might pursue to make those domains easier. The artifacts one has gotten even further. They've defined, goals that they want to achieve. They want to make it easy to query across many different kinds of OCI packages to find out information about what's in them and things like that. There's another use case I have in mind, which we haven't even started on yet. And then that can either, depending on where we are, if that's like got enough stakeholders, that can become its own group and, they can pursue those goals on their own. If not, we could pursue something different. It's kind of iterative. Yeah, so I guess I'll just keep reading through all of them. The next one that I have been really thinking about a lot is portal use cases. So it's another interface into the platform, I guess. Hopefully built on top of the APIs, in my opinion. But, this is a huge topic for the industry right now with Backstage's in interest. What exactly are the things that people are doing there? So I put down a few hypotheses here that people use Backstage to keep track of their first-party applications and products. People use it to provision and template new projects, and people use it for docs and info. Each of these feel like, there's plenty of opportunities here. Like there's other first-party software catalogs. So should we, if we got together and discussed capabilities of portals, we might, take these, take like, okay, software catalog, there's this one, there's this one, there's this one. How are they similar? What could we do to make them all great? Like have an application type in Kubernetes, let's say, I don't know. Project templates, like Backstage uses some sort of arcane cookie cutter. Sorry for saying arcane, maybe it's not, but it uses its own thing.
Wait, it doesn't use it cookie cutter anymore.
Oh, sorry, right, so I'm behind. But that's the idea, like maybe there's a templating engine which should be developed outside of Backstage and then Backstage can plug it in. Or maybe there's another one that's great that some other company wants to include. Or maybe just a GitHub project template. I just want to clone it and go. There's places to discuss that too and bring those projects together. I noticed Headlamp, for example, was just accepted into CNCF Sandbox. It doesn't seem quite as app-centric as Backstage, but that's another one that we'd probably bring in to talk. The other two have a bit more momentum in increasing order. Actually, the artifacts is the furthest, but connections keeps coming up. Service connections and service bindings. And this one is a little more mature than the first two. So I guess it was me. I've been pulling folks together that have a stake here. Some of the Weaveworks folks reached out about SOPS, SOPS, which was also recently accepted. You might have all seen the Vault Secrets Operator, which came out, which I just went through deeply last night. It's super cool, the dynamic, that it can even sync a dynamic secret and rotate it. But, even there, like, do we all, agree on what we're trying to achieve with service binding, which is not necessarily secrets management, it's getting connected to a service. Like workload identity is another option. Are there patterns we could apply? Like right now, Vault, people think of that, but there's the key management systems from the big cloud providers and others. can we, I guess my thinking here is the end goal is to make it easy for your app developer, that any workload can connect to any of the many different service types we deal with. And right now it feels like everything is a snowflake in this area. Every backing service has a different way for publishing its secrets. Connection secrets. Every actual workload has a different way of finding them. Application.properties or something, and envars, and et cetera. So there's some nascent effort. We don't have a group there, so it's more like check out the issue. If you're passionate about it, let's keep talking, and let's get a group together, and we can define what we want to achieve. Yeah, last but not least, actually, this one came up, and I'm just writing it because, great, if there are people that are passionate about it, then let's facilitate it and enable it. So basically this came out of OCI. There's a group there that's trying to use, OCI itself is deep in working on supporting things other than container images or file system layers, what it comes down to in a config file. But we needed a group that was actually bringing together the implementers and developing examples and listing schemas and just gathering. So like right now we had an initial meeting to go over the charter. The charter is almost ready to go. Pretty clear path. The goal is to enable searching across many different kinds of OCI packages for SBOMs and attestations and vulnerabilities and blah, blah. That's just the start. And the way we're going to do it is documenting or gathering up schemas for Helm charts can go in an OCI. I just had a chat with the WASM people. Maybe I shouldn't call them the WASM people, but whatever. The group people that are working on WASM, they also WebAssembly. They want to embed binaries into those packages, and maybe not a whole file system layer. The OPA packages, things. There's a lot like image package, operator framework, also all have their own patterns for bundling things into an OCI package and then unbundling and deploying. So we're just gathering those up at this point. We're almost going to start the WEG though, the working group. So yeah, so that one's pretty mature. If you are passionate about participating there, come join #WEG Artifacts, the group. The last one, I am not as sure what to say about it, but multi-tenancy. That's come up. Alex Jones brought this up a long time ago, and there's been a couple threads about a paper on it, so I didn't write exactly what we would want to achieve. I know this comes up, but yeah, it's another one that would be relevant for our group. I guess, I think when we first talked about it, it was like multi-tenancy beyond like the cluster, beyond compute, like within applications and backing services. So yeah, I didn't want to skip that one, so that's in here. Yeah, so I guess I'll pause here and what's your thoughts on this? Are there other ones? Is this the right stuff? Is this, obviously we have to find passionate people, but are we on the right path?
I think this sounds great, and all of it resonates with what I've seen. Because usually when people try to stand up backstage, they basically have to touch in all the capabilities of the platform. So I've definitely seen all of these capabilities or issues or people trying to tackle all of this when standing backstage. So it definitely sounds like it's the right path.
Yeah, and I also think it's just a good way to cultivate innovation. Like I think you're trying to hit on just a lot of different avenues that there could potentially be gaps. So yeah, I think you're absolutely right that the hard part is finding the people to do it and think about it and consider how to solve some of these problems. But I think it's a good way to approach like finding the problems themselves.
Yeah, I'll offer just kind of my unique perspective coming in new and not really being as familiar with the terminologies that you guys probably regularly chatter about. one of the things that jumps out to my eyes, just because of who I am and what I do, is the layer between application and infrastructure. Like you know, when you have a software development shop and they're building apps, you know, it's easy to kind of think about an app as being something that runs in Kubernetes, but it isn't always. You know, sometimes you need an RDS a database, you need some kind of data storage in the cloud. And there are some nuances about that that are maybe worth considering as a pillar of capability domains, maybe. Another thing that jumps out is you know, and probably closer to the GitOps sphere of things, but secrets management from an application standpoint, from an application delivery and application, you know, ecosystem standpoint, like secrets management is regularly one that feels like a pillar to me. And I don't know what of those may just kind of slide under portal and may just slide under, you know, other pillars that you guys have already identified, but just wanted to call those two out.
That's awesome, John. And actually, what I'm taking feedback is that, to me, the third-party services and connections and bindings is secrets, but I can definitely see why that's not so clear.
Yeah, exactly.
My hypothesis on that, I'd like you, if you want to participate, I'd love it, is that the purpose of secrets is to facilitate the connections. That's why I get like workload identity you don't even need a secret.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And there's a different philosophy to application secret management when the secrets are owned by the application team, and whether or not that those secrets should be available to, say, a platform engineering team, or are they owned by the application team themselves? You know, there's nuances about it. It feels maybe a little bit application delivery centric, but yeah, just calling it out.
Thank you. Victor, I see you have your hand up.
Yeah, I'm and I knew it's John's first meeting. I'm actually probably newer to the community overall, to the overall Kubernetes community. So I'm actually learning about API machinery, understanding that's the foundation of everything. I actually find it useful to understand it a little bit, so that, you know, at least for example during the security review, sometimes it's good to understand how individual components interact with each other. So I guess that's for that API part. And then also in what John said is exactly. So I'm always wondering, for, you know, Kubernetes is definitely taking off. And however, right now, people, you know, the big public cloud providers, the private cloud provider, including, you know, VMware, OpenStack, and all that, the seems like virtual machine is still the main technology used to build a cloud. Right. So talking about capability domains, what is the gap between from here to in the future? Is public cloud provider is going to use Kubernetes alone to build future cloud? And what is the gap there? I know it's not an app delivery question, it's an overall Kubernetes question, but what is the gap? And if there's a gap, what do we solve the problem right now? As John said, we probably need the external service, whether it's you know, RDS or whatever it is. That's probably where the gap is.
Is that like migration kind of like?
Not necessarily. For example, again, going back to database, because that's where I talk the most, right? So traditionally, Kubernetes is known for not so secure, as secure at least, a stateless platform to build application middle tier, not for database. Now there is initiatives such as, you know, the DOK database on Kubernetes community that's putting the database on the cluster. But there are, I think there's still a lot of work to be done to make it really mission critical. Just like you know, because some of the older mainframe Oracle database can run for 10 years without being shutting down. Right? Is that going to be even possible to be running on Kubernetes? So those kind of things, and also like having like a secret store? Is it guaranteed to be, because secret is super important, right? Because if you lose secret, you lose everything, right? So virtual machine in the cloud is already kind of mature, so that those data is guaranteed to be not lost, right? So if you put it on Kubernetes, is there a risk of losing that data? Yeah, those just in simple words, if we use Kubernetes to build a new public cloud provider, is that possible? What is the gap?
But you should come work for Red Hat. we are trying to build a new cloud provider only on Kubernetes. Okay, sorry, that's product. Valentina, we're getting to time. You want to say something?
Yeah, I don't know if, so with this, try to make it quick. With the secret, it's also configurations management. So not everything goes into the secret, but I agree completely. Like what I've seen is developers trying to understand how my current configurations that work on any environment that is not Kubernetes will work now on Kubernetes. And that could be secret management, configurations, all of that around it. And the other thing that I've seen, how we can onboard developers or other users into the platform. Like, what is the process for me as an organization to go through this process? And this is very important for adoption, because if we can have users, end users connecting into the platform, I know we have IDPs as well that kind of abstract that. It's very important for adoption of the platform as a whole. So that's the other thing I wanted to add.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting, because I didn't, in this list here, it says project templates, but I guess we could say onboarding, like that. It almost feels like that goes into the portal conversation.
Yeah, yes. And this has been great, my first meeting, so I am very excited about all these topics. Like, looking forward to contribute it to as much as I can.
Thank you.
Yeah, love it. So thank you for including me.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
one other thought to throw on the table is that of ephemeral environments. And I know that's a bit of a grenade to throw, but there's like there's a distinct and seemingly ever-present need for shops that are adopting Kubernetes to just want that ephemeral environment for their microservices that they're building and shipping, right? Like, while the developer's still on their branch, they want to see it. They want to, but anyone that's tried to implement it, like, that there are layers about it. If it's a front-end app, it's pretty easy. If it's a front-end app with a back-end app, does the ephemeral environment include both of those? What happens if there's state on the back end? So like, maybe in terms of just like identifying app delivery pillars, like that may very well be another one to consider.
I love it. I know one of the things we identified in our hypotheses of capabilities is development environments, which I think that kind of falls under. So
yep.
Cool. Well, if any of these are you're passionate about, and you feel like, there's a number of projects and you want to try to bring them together, like, feel free to open an issue in, either a Google Doc or open an issue in GitHub. Let us know about them, and, we can discuss it there. Yeah, like with the artifacts group, they were really passionate, and I'm happy to help. I mean, I'm happy to get deep into technical stuff, but I can't always. But if I'm happy to help get the meetings together and, help them flow. If you're passionate about any domain and you want to gather the right stakeholders and have some ideas on the activities you'd pursue also.
Awesome. Thank you, Jeff.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Cool. I think that's all for today. We're 2 minutes over, so I'm not even going to open it up for more discussion. But we're on Slack, and chime in there, and talk anytime.
Thanks, Josh. See you all later.
Bye,
Thank
Yeah.
Bye.
you.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye, folks.